Hola Reinventionistas. Hey, it feels really good to be back in the saddle after being out of town for 2 weeks. So I was down in just south of Playa del Carmen, Mexico for the Dropship Lifestyle Retreat, and then last week in Dallas for FinCon. So I was out there just meeting, people from all around the world and all around the U.S., connecting and learning. And now my brain is melting. So I'm going to keep this intro short because I have to get all these ideas and follow up with all these people that I met and come up with some action plans. And speaking of action, I'm excited to bring you this week's guest, James Hillegas, who is a man of action, and he's into civil engineering and drones and podcasting and powerlifting, a number of things, and just absorbing like a sponge all the information that is easily accessible these days, and being open to opportunities that come his way. So, for example, he got asked to participate in the Sundown rundown, which you'll hear about in the episode, and he said, "Yeah, I'll take that opportunity." So that's how we got connected. Really excited to bring this episode. He's totally motivating for me, so I feel like I'm just a slouch now, so I gotta get my butt in gear. Anyways, here's the episode.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Hi, everybody. Hey, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 13 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with James Hillegas, and we're going to be talking civil engineering and drones and how they go together like peanut butter and jelly, so I hear. But we'll hear it straight from James in a second here. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the Sundown rundown, which is how we met. So, James, welcome to the revolution.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm really humbled to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, well, thanks for taking time out of your day, because I know we're both busy and just jamming on different things. Before we dig into the drones and the civil engineering stuff, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Sundown rundown, because that's how we met, and you gave a great presentation down there. So can you tell people a little bit about what the Sundown rundown event is and how you got connected to it?
Sure. So Sundown rundown is, I believe it was an event started actually in Columbus, Ohio, and then kind of it's made its way to the somewhat major, metropolitan areas of the state. So like Akron, Mansfield, Canton, and I believe Youngstown. And really, it's just kind of an event for people to network. There's, usually, depending on the club, 3 to 5 speakers, usually entrepreneurs of some sort, whether it's an idea, they have a business, or they're, well into business and are just looking to get their name out there. And I got connected to that event through Linda Hale, and I met Linda Hale, who's the lady that kind of oversaw the Akron chapter.
Right.
And I met her through Anu at the University of Akron and the Excel Center, and that's kind of how I got connected with her. And I've known her now for good, I'd say 6 months or so, and she asked me if I would be willing to speak at the Akron Sundown Rundown, and I take every opportunity as I can, because I'm not fancy enough to say no to anything.
Right.
So I showed up, and that's how I ended up there.
Cool. Well, and Anu, who is Anu for those folks that are listening that may not understand who that is?
Yeah. So I guess his real name is Anil. So Annally. And he is kind of I don't know what his official title is, but so obviously every university now kind of has their version of a startup accelerator, for lack of a better explanation. And the University of Akron, to which I attend, has one called the Excel Center. And he kind of oversees that as a director. He has experience in business law and things of that nature.
I see. So cool. Yeah, there's really like this whole new entrepreneurship kind of thrust in the country, like kind of everywhere these days, which is really cool, because it's kind of opening up all these different possibilities, and really it's leveraging what the internet has all of a sudden opened up for all of us. How all the technologies are really at our fingertips now, and how you can reach out and train yourself in some crazy niche discipline that would be hard for you maybe to find on your own or find early in life, et cetera. So it's really, really very interesting. And this event was, one of these things that's put together that you can now, network and find people and find, your own tribe of people that wants to do these things. And the event was held at a really cool place in Akron called Blu Jazz. So it was a jazz club. So it was a nice environment and got people out there to mix and mingle, have a few drinks, and listen to these presentations. So thanks for describing that, because it was my first time to a Sundown Rundown event. I didn't know what they were. So I'm from the Cleveland area, and this got started, like you said, around Columbus, and it's sort of like mid-Ohio based right now. It's coming up north to Akron, I guess, and maybe eventually they'll have a group in Cleveland or even more southern parts of Ohio or whatever. But so it was a great attended event. So if anyone's interested in checking these things out, they should definitely check it out. And meeting Linda was great, and she's also connected to the Akron Public Library as well. So she said she's got a great facility over there in terms of a co-working space and other equipment, maybe some other maker equipment. Have you been over to the library where she works, James?
Yeah, so they have several computers, I know, with the Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm not sure if they have everything on the cloud, but they probably have like Premiere and Photoshop. And then they have a recording studio, they have a green screen, they have a couple 3D printers that I think are broken because we're fixing them right now at the Akron Makerspace, last I heard. And then they have a couple other various odds and ends things. So they have a little display where you can take like product photos in. I see. Things like that. So that's kind of what they have set up.
Yeah, it sounded like a really cool space. And next time I'm down in Akron, I'm definitely going to check it out and see what they have going on over there, because that seems to be what's great about it is that it's free. You can go access it and figure out these programs, these complex programs, to see if you really wanted to buy it or even just get started that way. But so anyways, so tell me about, tell everyone listening what your presentation was about then. So you got connected, and it was this particular night was like a pitch night that they were having, right? And so the pitch was, what was your pitch?
So my pitch was on using drones for bridge inspections, which it's a pretty well-known problem and solution. However, the technology has some things that need to be addressed. Obviously, several DOTs have had some, I guess, infamous, I don't even know if that's the right word, failures of crashing drones. So there's things yet to be learned. However, the industry is pretty new. And that was basically my pitch, both building a drone and some data analysis software at the high level.
I got you. Well, let's rewind that a little bit and explain to people that may not understand civil engineering or what you're talking about, why you'd want to be flying a drone around a bridge, for example. So what are the problems that are out there? Why you'd need a drone, and then what's the drone do for you?
Sure, good question. I kind of sometimes overlook that technical aspect of the world.
Well, you get so down in the weeds, it's like you forget that not everybody's understanding where you're coming from. Exactly.
So as a bridge owner, so a bridge owner can be either the railroad or the Department of Transportation, your local county, your city, things of that nature. A good rule of thumb is whatever road is on top of the bridge, so like basically the bridge carries a road, whatever that road happens to be is probably the person who owns it. So if it's like a state route, the state owns it. If it's a county route, county owns it. And if it's the interstate, the DOT owns it, because they kind of do the job for the federal highway. So with that being said, we have to do bridge inspections, very similar to a lot of either mechanical equipment or infrastructures. We inspect things to make sure they're performing, because safety is our number one concern, whether it's mechanical engineer, things of that nature, or civil engineer. So we do inspections. They're federally mandated, and the process just really hasn't changed much in 60 years. There was a collapse of a bridge in 1967 across the Ohio River. After that, the federal highway, and I forget the official name of the act, but nonetheless, it was an act that created the bridge inspection system, because they're like, well, we can't keep having bridges fail.
And then there was no formal process before that? That's interesting.
So from 1970 prior, there was no bridge inspection process. Now obviously wasn't around, but obviously I think a lot of people overlook the fact that we are like, even though people say humans evolved or whatever speak, so is our technology. So everyone complains that the new iPhone can't, or their old iPhone can't run the new iOS update or things of that nature. And I just also think, yes, it could be part on Apple, but also from the technical standpoint, perhaps your hardware can't process the new software as efficiently, and that also could be doing some damage. So things evolve, and we have to start somewhere. So obviously we learned our lesson. It's unfortunate that it happened that way, but that's how it is. So the process just really hasn't changed much in 60 years. It's fairly required, obviously, for your safety and things of that nature. And the process, it's expensive. It costs about $1.5 billion a year, and it doesn't really fix anything. It just, you basically spend money to find problems, that are already kind of there. You just need to find them and quantify them, so to speak, without getting into the weeds.
And just describe the traditional process, like what physically happens. I mean, it's not that sophisticated, right? Sure.
No, it's not that sophisticated. Most of our process is visual. We just basically use our eyes. There's some non-destructive testing, but that's a little bit newer, and that gets very technical. But it's mostly visual. We use a hammer. That's basically to check if things are hollow or if they're solid for various reasons. But outside of that, the process is really visual. And the thing with drones, that's where it gets interesting, is like it can bring the cost down, but it also brings different sensors to the application that we just haven't been able to use in the past.
So let's just stay with this point just a little bit more. So so everybody really understands, basically a guy's got to go out there physically, get close to the bridge and look at it, eyeball it up and down. And that means maybe there's small bridges that you can walk up to and actually just walk around and look at it, right? But if it's a large bridge, you have to get up on a crane or in a helicopter, or how do you really do these large structures?
So the large structures, we basically have two methods. One, it's called a snooper truck, which is basically, everyone's seen a bucket truck. The power companies use them, the tree companies use them. It's the same concept. Instead of putting you in the air, it puts you kind of under the bridge. So it kind of makes a U shape, so to speak, like it tucks over there, if that makes sense. The problem with that is, one, that's expensive because you need an operator stay on the bridge to operate the machine. We have to close down lanes. It's a safety concern for you, the driver. Anytime we have to change traffic patterns, it's a safety concern for the drivers, especially more with distracted driving. It's even worse. And it's also then a safety hazard for the inspector. I mean, you can type in snooper truck failures. They're all over the internet. It's just the laws of physics. You start sticking a bucket out too far. It's the same concept of a crane picking up something too far that's outside of its reach, the laws of equilibrium, and the crane tips. We can make very powerful equipment. You just have to account for the laws of physics that no matter what we invent aren't going to change. We just have to make sure we counteract that, so to speak. And that's one of the problems with snoopers. And then the other option is we simply climb over the bridge, basically like rock climbing. The interesting thing there is, yes, it's a safety concern, hanging over the side of the bridge. God forbid your harness fails. That's not so common. We're pretty good, unless you don't inspect your climbing equipment. Cables are fraying, carabiners aren't, correctly operating. Then that might be a concern. But the more tricky part is the staffing is rather expensive because you need a climber and an engineer. You can't just have an engineer, and you can't just have a climber. You need someone with both. Skill set. And I was just going to ask you that. Are you a climber? Have you rappelled over bridges to do inspections yourself? No, I do want to do that. So I deer hunt, so I climb trees on a regular basis. Afraid to get outside. I need to do that kind of stuff. No, so I need to get one. Correct. I need to get one more level of training, which I'm just kind of waiting on the DOT to open that up. So you have to get trained, and that's kind of where it gets interesting. Is a lot of people are engineers, and when they think of engineers are the nerd that sits at the desk. He doesn't want to be dangling off the side of a bridge. And whereas you can get a climber, but he has no idea what he's looking at. So that's where that just gets expensive because that's just a unique skill set to have someone that is both. And that's what brings in drones. And that's why I wanted to kind of set that up a little bit better, because this drone thing it really could be revolutionary, very impactful, disruptive even in this space of like the things that are available that you can do with it now,
So explain what the drone
Correct.
offers then. Obviously it offers access and maybe visual things, but there's other things going on with it as well.
Correct. And this is where it gets into really just straight up research and development. In the past, we've never had economical ways to put sensors in the air. So obviously we could, use an airplane, but no one's going to do a bridge inspection with an airplane. That's like blowing out your birthday cake with a fire hose. That's just a little bit excessive, a little bit extreme, and in some cases the airplane's longer than the bridge. So this is where it just gets into like just straight up R&D, because we've never been able to economically put sensors in the air to inspect things or try things. So it's going to be a lot of just putting something up, seeing what the data tells us, establishing ground truth using the traditional methods, and then seeing if the sensor that we try reports the same thing or gives us something different. We don't know. It's a lot of just figuring it out, honestly, because we just never had an economical way to do it. And with everything using a lot of the same technology, computer vision and all that technical speak, a lot of sensors have gotten smaller. So one of the things is Lidar, which I forget what the acronym exactly stands for, but it involves lasers. And it used to be a big, huge thing that you put on a tripod. I'm trying to avoid using technical words as best I can.
We'll explain it if you do.
So it's basically... Sure. So basically, it's like putting a trash can on a tripod. It was really big. It was really bulky. It was really heavy. But autonomous cars use them. Now drones use them. Now it's the size of a hockey puck, and it weighs less than a pound. So maybe like people would understand, like if you've ever seen like a Google car running around your neighborhood with a little tin can on top, they are using laser radar or Lidar to map out the areas, because you can send out infrared light beams and receive them back, and it can do basically a landscape of the area. That's what you're talking about. So people might see that in their own just common everyday experience, but very true. So that's one of the applications or examples of things getting smaller.
So that's interesting. So now you're able to put. Do you know a company named? Speaking of just engineering speak here for a second, do you know a company named Leddartech? Do you know those guys?
No. Do they make Lidar units?
They're working with the automotive industry and with drones and, any things that would be in that space. They're kind of a component supplier. They make the optics and the electronics.
The one I've used the most or heard of the most is a company called Velodyne.
Okay, so that's actually the company that Google uses for their Google cars. I know them. But this would be like one level abstracted below Velodyne, I believe, where it's more of a component. So anyways, just wondering, they were in my other Jimium Group consulting stuff that I do. I came across Leddartech. I just wonder if you happen to know them. Okay. Sorry to geek out there a second, everybody. But hey, people might want to know this stuff. It's interesting. Things are changing fast. So now that you have this LiDAR technology that can be integrated into the drones, is that mainly what's used, or do you still use a physical basically camera, which is a different type of optical system basically, or use those in combination, in terms of collecting data or images?
So it's in combination. So we could use Lidar, we could use sonar, which is sound, we could use infrared, which is thermal or temperature data, we could use just regular 4K video, and those are the main ones. There's a couple others that we could look at. So there's one called ground penetrating radar, which is GPR. And so those are kind of some newer ones we would just have to experiment with. And we've used them in other forms, but we've never really put them on drones. And that's just a lot of I don't have answers to that this moment. And it's just going to be figuring it out.
So yeah, maybe explain so that's kind of the reason why the drone technology now is very interesting for bridge inspections and, looking at other even construction sites, like, when you're probably building a building in mid-construction, you might want to, fly a drone up there and do some just safety checks and stuff like that. These things are really going to be probably very prevalent over the, next, 5-10 years in terms of how these applications develop. Like you said, it's kind of an R&D state right now, because it's sort of like people are playing around like, hey, we could try this, we could do that, So, but what's your involvement in it? So you got interested in this. I think because you were telling me kind of how you were working in the traditional world and kind of got frustrated, and you were recommending kind of things to your clients that, hey, you should be trying this or trying that, but they weren't kind of moving on it, and so you kind of decided to jump in a little bit more quickly on your own.
Correct. So I work for an engineering company headquartered in Cleveland, where it's a pretty good sized firm. There's about 160 of us. I don't know. They've hired a lot of people. We've grown a lot. So I don't know. I'm actually kind of now an old guy in terms of tenure here at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not very old, man. So
no. But in terms of tenure here, I'm making my way up the seniority list. But no, so we did. I graduated with a BS in civil engineering in 2016, and my first project after that was 4 bridge inspections for the Ohio Turnpike. And just the way that everyone made seem engineering, it's like really organized and efficient and progressive and all this other like great stuff. When I did it, I was like, this really doesn't seem as what it's made out to be. So, like any good millennial, I did some Googling, and the Minnesota, I Googled, do people use drones for bridge inspections or something along those lines? And obviously everyone knows how Google works. I got some research papers and I read them, and they were hundreds of pages long, and I read them front to cover and highlighted them. And, I just cold emailed people that were mentioned. So I would do the simple copy paste into Google and see if I could find their contact information. And one of the papers I read, the first one I read actually was, I might get the dates wrong a little bit, but in like 2014, Minnesota Department of Transportation, they did this pilot study or case study using drones and inspections because they wanted to see what kind of data they could get. It was 7 years after the collapse of the I-35 bridge, so they had a scarlet letter on their resume, and they were looking to be progressive with drones and doing inspections. And this was all pre-FAA, like to fly a drone. Basically, at this point, you either jump through a lot of hoops to legally fly, or you were flying completely illegally, because the FAA didn't have a ruling yet.
It's hard to catch up with the technology.
Correct, especially for how fast it's moving today. There's no way they can keep up. Like it is, they're either going to legislation is going to have to drastically change, or I don't know what's going to happen. But the rate technology is moving, there's no way the regulation's going to keep up. But without going down that rabbit hole.
And that was the environment. Just to kind of highlight again, that was the environment you found yourself in because of the nature of civil engineering or bridge construction. It is, all the bridges are owned by government entities mostly, right? Some probably are private, but, mostly that's just the environment you're dealing with is this governmental environment. So it does move more slowly. So
I read that paper, and basically the company that did the flying, I'll try and leave people's names out of it, but if you Google stuff hard enough on me, you'll find me talking about it in more detail. So I called this company that did the flying because I got the FAA to give them a waiver, and they did the flying. I called them. I was like, hey, this is really cool. I'm a recent civil engineer. If I can get involved in any way, let me know. And they're like, yeah, well, we actually don't really have that many technical people to analyze these photos. And I was like, literally, I've inspected 4 bridges. Like I am just graduated like 2 months ago. They're like, oh, that's okay. We'll teach you everything. So I just literally was thrown in the fire, and I did 2 whole bridge inspections for free. So, which was probably 20 to 25 hours of work for free. Beta tested software for them. In that beta testing process, I lost part of my work because it's beta, and I had to redo stuff. I remember Sunday afternoons working, trying to make up what I was lost because of the software failed. And, they ended up bringing me on full time. I did a couple more and got paid for those, but really just kind of learned about the industry that way. And I've never even met the company officially. They're located in Colorado, but we did everything electronically through Dropbox and Slack. And, that's just kind of how I got started with drones. And they ended up training me, and I got my FAA Part 107, which is the commercial pilot's license for drone operation. And you need a commercial license to fly drones. I didn't know that. So that's part of the regulations that are starting to happen. Correct. So in August of 2016, the FAA made their ruling on drone operations, what you had to do. And that's not, so you can go buy a drone and you can go use it for fun in the backyard. But if you want to make money with it, you should have an FAA Part 107. And a lot of people, I don't know, some people do it illegally, but I think you might not get consequences by the FAA, but if your drone fails or has a failure, or you can't operate it because you're not a real pilot, you could have problems. So that's what a lot of people, it's not driving a car, it's completely different.
So that's good to know, because I think some probably just, hobbyist photographers or, just people that are kind of blogging and just using drones for footage or something. They may or may not know that, maybe they should be licensed if they're trying to monetize something they're doing with it,
Correct. And that goes into insurance. And I've actually spoken with a drone lawyer. I mean, that gets into a whole nother rabbit hole. We could do a whole podcast on drone law.
Probably, that's got to be very interesting, actually, for the legal profession. That's probably a great growth, niche market for them, really.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly
cool.
what it is. No, I was going to say that goes into how common law and how laws get written, things of that nature.
So, okay, so you got connected with these companies, which is an amazing story, and that's just kind of, again, highlighting kind of the the digital age that we're living in. Is you just started reaching out and talking to these guys and realize, man, this is you're at the front edge of this stuff. There isn't a lot of knowledge, and you just decided, hey, I'm curious about it. I want to jump in and start learning about it, and it turned into this massive opportunity for you. So there's a real life lesson right there of just going for something that you really like doing in the first place, and then it turns into this great opportunity. So now, are you still working for them remotely for this company, or what's your status now?
I still do work for them remotely. They haven't been too busy from what I've seen in terms of them needing my help, but I still do. I'm still involved in their Slack channel and things of that nature. I got a lot of other sticks in the fire, so if they don't need me, that doesn't really bother me that much.
It was such a great motivation and pull for you at that point, though, to figure this stuff out for real, because it's like you were all learning together, and it was a great project to dig your teeth into, right? I mean, that's priceless, really, when you think about it. So where have things gone from there then?
So from there, wow. That's a deep question.
And I'm sure you had probably 1,000 thoughts a day, because you're starting to really see opportunities where you're you're working for this bigger civil engineering company, and you're like, things are moving slow and it's not what you thought it would be, but now you're turned on to, hey man, maybe I can make something happen for myself, or I see how fast things are moving, and there's a real marketplace need. So what are you thinking?
Yeah. So I guess I don't want to correct you too much, but so the company I work for, we're a full service engineering company. So we can do top to bottom, architecture, any engineering discipline, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire, security, all that stuff. We can do it all. So give them their credit where it's due. But
it's just the clients you're working with is the governmental part where it comes in, right? Yeah.
Correct. And I'm in the civil engineering department.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's who
I didn't mean to talk about your company. Yeah, I got you. Okay, cool.
So I mean, there's just a lot of I guess engineering's really been put on a pedestal, so to speak, due to the app culture. I don't know if that's what caused it, but really people want to be engineers or developers or things of that nature. It's really become popular. So I've been able to leverage my skill set as an engineer for helping people, 3D print stuff. That's my thesis in grad school, is 3D printing. It's just become a really interesting time. I've gotten involved with virtual reality. I've gotten involved started getting involved with data analytics. I've gotten involved with, teaching myself how to write software, and I still have a ridiculously long way to go. But, I've started getting involved with all of the smart and IoT initiatives at our company. So we have a technology group. One of the things we do at work is we're helping companies convert from what's the word I'm looking for? From a server farm or a server deal to a cloud-based infrastructure. We're helping renovate old warehouses into data centers, which is going to be huge for the traditional manufacturing towns of Cleveland, Youngstown, Akron, Pittsburgh. The Rust Belt, if you call it that.
They have this infrastructure that's there that can be leveraged now at much lower cost, probably, if it gets turned over into those facilities.
Correct, because it's way cheaper to do stuff here than it is in San Francisco. I mean, we can, what $1 million gets you in San Francisco can get you basically what would be quote unquote equivalent to $1 billion. And if you,
I do.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I do. $1 million is nothing in San Francisco. I mean, that's barely a small shack to live in out there. Right.
Exactly. In here, that's a mansion. The cost of living is just way different. So that's a couple of things. I've just gotten involved in all sorts of things of that nature. Artificial intelligence. I'm talking with the professor next week on doing a graduate thesis on artificial intelligence and civil engineering. So really anything technology related, I've really tried to put my hands into.
Yeah, that's amazing. So are you still in school now? Sounds like you're doing graduate work?
Correct. So I'm getting my master's in civil engineering, and then my thesis is on 3D printing.
3D printing for structural, like bridge components, or what? Tell me about that a little bit.
So that's one of the goals I want to get to. There's still some time to be played. Construction's a whole nother, deal of technology can be used. But the project I have specifically is we dredge the Cuyahoga River. So the Cuyahoga River dumps into Lake Erie, and when you have a moving body of water that meets a standing body of water like a lake or an ocean, the velocity of the moving body changes. It just basically stops. So all the sediment that the Cuyahoga River carries all of a sudden drops to the bottom of the river right there where the two meet. That being said, when that happens, the sediment builds up over time and the depth decreases. So it's no longer as deep as it quote unquote used to be. And that becomes a problem for shipping. It reduces the size of the ships that can go through. So we dredge, which is basically essentially digging in water. So we dig in water and we restore the depth of the Cuyahoga River to what it is to allow ships to get in that are bigger. So when we do that, though, we have to put that material somewhere. And in the past, we just dumped it in the middle of the lake because we had nowhere else to put it. The Army Corps of Engineers wasn't a fan of that. So we're basically now using that material to 3D print it. Or 3D print with it, I should
really?
say.
Just the dredged material? So what's the material made out of? I mean, it's dirt and...
It's basically
stone.
Really fine. So it's silt and clay.
And what's the... what's the benefit or what's the value you get out of that material, like versus other virgin material, or for example?
Well, the value is it's just sustainable. It's always going to happen. Like erosion's never going to stop unless you find a way to quote unquote turn off rivers. So that that's a never-ending process.
But the material characteristics, like if you use virgin material, you can pick a specific material to get the right characteristics, the right expansion capabilities and thermal capabilities, etc. This just happens to be a free resource essentially. But how does it lend itself, or what's the value of its particular characteristics once you 3D print something out of it? Do you know that?
Well, so the value is it's typically silt and clay, so it's really, really, really fine, like down to the micromillimeters is typically what they're measured in. And the value is it's just it's what we already use in concrete anyway.
I see. Okay.
It's already a component that we use. We use things like silica fume and fly ash and things of that nature. And fly ash, I could be mistaken, but there's one of them that we use that we get from coal-fired power plants, and that's one of the byproducts of burning coal. And obviously, coal is fading; it's no longer really required for us to make energy. We have other ways like nuclear and things of that nature. So coal's just not going to be used as much. So that we're going to lose that supply at some point.
Gotcha.
So we have to find other things to use, and we can't 3D print gravel when we make concrete for other structures. There's typically large aggregate in there, so like 3s and 4s, or crushed or limestone, like number 57s. But we can't 3D print with that because that has to fit through a nozzle, and that nozzle is going to be huge. So we can't 3D print with it because when it comes to 3D printing, and this is a whole other technical rabbit hole, is the size of your nozzle kind of controls how fine your resolutions can be. So if you have a nozzle that is a foot in diameter, you can't print like 2-inch detail. Like you have a foot in diameter, that's like the best you can do. So depending on what your application is, that starts to control all of that. I guess you can almost just make you can make an algorithm of like what do you want to do and how to get to what the best option is for you to use it. So
I understand. Yeah, I was just curious about the applications of that particular material that you dredge up, what it would go into. So I see kind of the applications it would be used for now. It makes sense. So yeah, that's very interesting. So that's your thesis that you're working on. Is that what you said? Okay, cool.
Correct.
Awesome. So when you get through with that and you're discovering all these other possibilities, with drones and the IoT stuff you're talking about. And that's Internet of Things for people that don't know what that is. And that's just talking about all the connectedness and the sensing that is going to be packaged up in, kind of most everything we come in contact, probably in the future. So there's going to be sensors in lights. There's going to be sensors in cars. Obviously, there's going to be, sensors kind of wherever you go, and everything will be connected to the internet. Anyways, you're discovering these other technologies. When you graduate, do you have a vision of what you're thinking about doing in terms of, are you thinking about starting your own business, continuing to do the work at the company that you're at today, or a combination of both maybe, huh?
Sure. So it's probably going to be a combination of both, and that's just really the power of the internet. One of the things I do need to get is my professional engineering license, which you need experience to even take the test, and I don't have that amount of experience yet to sit down for it. So I will get that experience. I'll get my professional engineering license, and then I'll probably, continue to work for a company and do stuff on the side, and unless one of those things on the side kind of take off. Or if the company gives me a little bit of freedom to do stuff like that at work, then I'll just keep working for them. The drone thing, that the company I've started with drones and building software and drones is just, it's not a need to be an entrepreneur. It's just a need to not see inefficiencies. So I'm agnostic to if they give me, if I have the title of CEO or just engineer,
Right.
I don't care. I just need that freedom to play. And if a company gives me that freedom, sweet, I'll work for you. And if they don't, then I'll either find a company that does or try and do something outside of that on my own.
I think that kind of speaks to me. That's kind of my approach. It's like, if I'm having fun and I like what I'm working on and I know I can, see possibilities, whatever, I can do it in whatever environment that makes sense. Because I'm so interested in what I'm doing. I don't have a preconceived idea of I need to be in this position, or I need to be a business owner, or those kinds of things. It's just like, hey, these are cool things I want to be involved in, and I want to do them to the best of my ability, and whatever the platform is that helps me do that, that's where you want to be. So if you're an employee, I would be like, man, this is the guy that we need to figure out how to keep, and figure out how to keep motivated. Exactly. And give them all kinds of, wide room to operate, because, you're going to bring that creativity to the party, and it's going to help, your customers and help motivate everyone else around you. So that's pretty cool stuff. So, and there's so many things before we get out of here. I want to ask you about another thing that we got connected with when we were talking after the Sundown Rundown, is that you haven't even mentioned yet, is podcasting. So I know we're doing a podcast now, but you also, in terms of just digging into all these technologies, have discovered podcasts and have dived into it. So tell me about what's going on there. You're still doing the podcast?
Yep, I still do the podcast, and really the podcast it was just a way, it's almost an excuse, honestly, for me to interview people that have more experience or expertise in areas that I don't, to learn. And, most people, if you give them a platform to speak on, they'd love to talk about their expertise versus just talking to one person. So if people, I promote the podcast and things of that nature, and I have a fairly respectable social media following on Instagram, relatively speaking, I guess, for an engineer. So I promote the podcast, but really it's just a chance for me to learn. So I basically will bring on anyone in technology, and we talk about any type of technology. It could be autonomous cars, it could be drones, it could be virtual reality or augmented reality. We just kind of explain how to get into it, and then talk about some of the applications that could be or have already occurred.
See. So that's one podcast, right? You said he had a couple. Sure.
And then obviously, I'm not the typical engineer. I do like to work out and be a meathead. So I compete. I've competed in both bodybuilding and powerlifting, and a lot of people obviously ask me questions as a result. How do you do X, Y, Z? So I kind of started a podcast where I bring on, fellow friends and people that, I just meet through social media, and we kind of go through those questions, and people can listen to that if they're looking for advice or guidance on things of that
just
nature.
Looking to get into that scene, or just it's kind of fun just to hear how other people are doing things, even if you might be an expert yourself. It's always insightful. You can always learn something from somebody that is in your world. Because I listen to a ton of different podcasts. of just, similar things that I'm into or that I want to learn more about, or even that I think I'm an expert in. Like I'm always, out there trying to learn something new. So it's really just blowing me away. And which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is, people that are coming out of school today and how they're thinking about the world and how they're accessing the world and experiencing the world. It's really mind-boggling that, if you just thought maybe not so long ago, maybe just 5-8 years ago, I don't think people would think this way so quickly. I mean, there were still opportunities to reach out and find people and learn about stuff. I mean, Google's been around for a while now, but it just seems with this advent of social media, Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and the internet and how it's stimulating people all together, that it used to be very separate, where it's like, LinkedIn is a business application and Facebook is a social application, and these walls are breaking down like right before our eyes. And it's like, if you are out there and interested in some particular niche, you can go find it, start creating your own group, and just create some opportunities and just really learn fast. I mean, that's the thing that you'll probably look back on in a few years and realize how much farther you are, or how much more you've learned because you're a person of action. You went and are diving into these things like quickly, for real, where, this is kind of part of the reinvention revolution, as I call it, trying to, get that point out there. The concept out there is, people that are taking action are going to move ahead faster and faster than we've ever seen before. And if you're just kind of sitting on your couch and not
definitely
realizing what's going on out there, you might just get blindsided, or just really not, might not be ready for what's coming next, and that's the thing. So very interesting. Thanks for sharing your story and all your experience. It's really cool. Hey, if people want to get in touch with you, or if you want to, throw your handles out there, how would people get in touch, or do you want to hand your handles out or no?
Yeah, sure. So obviously Instagram is JA and then my last name. So that's HILLEGAS_51. That's the same for, I think, Anchor as well. I don't have SoundCloud. Facebook is just, my name. You can Google that. LinkedIn, Same thing, my name. Twitter is the same handle as Instagram. And then if people really want Snapchat, it's Chevrolet51. I made that in high school before Snapchat was ever even what it is today. And I have all my friends from that, so I'm too lazy to change it to something that matches everything else. So I just stick with it. But YouTube, my name, same thing. So I'm pretty sure that's everything.
Yeah, and I'll have as much as I can in the show notes when people are searching around. So, you always can go to reinventionrevolution.com to find the episodes and to find the show notes, or, look in your favorite podcast app. So, James, hey, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation. I learned a lot, and now I'm like more motivated, where it's like, man, I got to dive into 6 other things when I get off the phone here, because I feel like I'm stagnant now, man. So thanks for the motivation.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, buddy. Alrighty.
Yep. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of.